Okay, welcome back. We're on the fifth pattern. We're on the sixth pattern actually, and congratulations if you've made it this far into it. By your 10th pattern, you're going to really understand, and there isn't going to be a pattern out there that you wouldn't be able to figure out after we're done with this series of 60 patterns in Java. Okay, so if we look at this pattern and we inspect this pattern, you guys already know what I'm going to ask. Look at the rows, look at the columns. Okay, we have 7 rows. Start from row 1 to 7. Okay, we also have 7 columns as well. And then what are we noticing? We're noticing that for each iteration, the columns decrease. Okay. So in the first row, the columns go from 7 to 1. In the second row, it goes from 7 to 2. In the fourth row, 7 to 4. Okay, so we kind of have an idea of how this loop is printing. Let's proceed. So the first thing we do, we initiate an integer variable called num, and we're going to assign a value of 7. Next, let's build the shell of our right angle triangle, the shell of the pattern. And we have 2 for loops, an I loop, which represents the rows, and a J loop, which represents the columns. Okay. Now what is changing? Is it the rows that are changing, or is it the numbers of the columns? And if you guess it's the columns, you're correct. So what do we print? We print what changes. And what changes? It's the column. So, and which loop represents the column? That would be the J loop. So that is our J loop. And now let's print our lines. And these lines will separate each one of the iterations and group them. Okay, this is the basic template of our loops so far. Now let's start with our rows. Our rows go from row 1 to 7, so I don't think we need to change that. So we're going to say for int I equal to 1 less than and equal to num I++. Now, we did notice that the columns is what changes. And where do our columns start? Does it start at 1 or does it start at 7? Our column starts at 7, so therefore J is going to be equal to 7, and it's going to be greater than and equal to 1. Okay, because 1 is our smallest value, and that's why we're putting that there. And because we don't want to create an infinity loop, we're going to stop the loop once this condition here is met. And of course, we said we're printing our J loop. So let's print that and see if that is our loop. Sorry, let's see if that's our pattern once we print it. Okay, as you could see, that is not our pattern that we print. So what is wrong here? I could already see my mistake, but I wanted you to see this. So we're going from num to 1 in our J loop. And as you could see, it prints from 7 to 1. That is not the pattern that we want. So what do we have to change? Here, we're going to have to say, greater than and equal to I, because this is the iteration. Okay. And there you go. That is the loop. So sometimes, I haven't done this loop before. This is my first time. Sometimes when you do the loop and the pattern prints, it's not the pattern. But always know that if something like that happens on an interview, generally they say you have 10 minutes. It's okay to make a mistake. Just know that if that if your pattern didn't print out, you could always figure out where your mistake is based on this particular line. What is your print statement? And whatever loop is your print statement, whether it's the I loop or the J loop, that is where you have the mistake, and you can manipulate it to get your answer. And also you're showing that you're able to debug and problem solve. Thank you so much. Again, happy testing. Feel free to check back my channel and comment and subscribe. And our next loop is going to be this loop here. I don't know what it's called. It is a right angle triangle, but as you could see, it prints out a little bit differently. So join me next time, and happy testing.